It's absolutely crazy to me that I'm going to talk about a player who was worth 6.8 wins above replacement, according to Baseball Reference. And I still have one player left to go. And if you're confused by why that's weird, it's because we're going in reverse order. And the fact that Julio was the second best Mariner is maybe one of the biggest compliments that you can give to Cal Raleigh. Because boy, oh boy, Julio Rodriguez put together a really good 2025 campaign. In 160 games, he hit 267, 324, 474. That is a 798 OPS. That is an OPS plus of 128, 32 homers, 30 stolen bases, 44 walks, 152 strikeouts, 95 RBI if you're into that sort of thing. You know, I always make that joke. RBI are not a bad thing. They're just, for those of you who are really stuck in the old school way, RBI is not a bad stat. What it isn't is a predictive stat. And it's a stat that relies on people being on base. But knocking those guys in, wow, is that a moth that just tried to kill me? You guys let me know. Maybe it was nothing and I just felt something on my face. But RBI just isn't a predictive stat, but it's not a bad number to have. Having more of them is good because boy, outing myself here. I thought Jared Kelnick was the better prospect. I was wrong. Happens. Wish I could tell you it'll be the last time I do it. Wish I could tell you it was the first time. Neither one. I think my prospect hit rate is pretty good, respectfully, but I've made mistakes, and a lot of people liked Kelnick a lot, and it just hasn't worked out. Not insane to think it could, but I was obviously wrong that he's better than Julio Rodriguez. It's not even close. In part because I did not see this defense coming, and we will talk about that defense for sure. But I've been a big fan of Julio Rodriguez, and some of you guys might remember that how Mollywop Monday came to be was due in part to comments made by Kevin Mather, the former disgraced president of the Seattle Mariners, who said some really screwed up things about Julio. And I'm not going to get into it, but especially in today's climate, they're even more reprehensible. And yes, that is true. Before any of you try to argue with me, yes, it is true. It's reprehensible to feel like that. But I've always had a bit of a sense that, especially, and maybe comes across as patronizing or whatever. I defend Julio. I defend Julio in part because he passes the eye test probably better than any Seattle Mariner I've seen since Felix Hernandez. All due respect to the guy we're going to talk about in a second. Well, tomorrow. And I think the criticism of him goes way overboard, beyond overboard. For a guy who is finished in the top 7 of MVP voting 3 of his 4 years, and if he would have stayed healthier in 2024, I think he would have had another top 10 showing. But I think that there are criticisms of him that just aren't fair. That doesn't mean that he's a perfect baseball player, and that doesn't mean obviously that there are criticisms of Julio Rodriguez that are fair, said more eloquently. But I do admit that I joke with my buddy Anders Hurst that I'm a Julio apologist. It's not that much of a joke. It's just not. And I do my best to not go too I don't even know what the right word is. Not bandwagon, that's not it. But I try not to be too much of a stan and just look at it objectively. But I do struggle with it with Julio. And some of that is possibly, if you're watching this, possibly your fault because you guys went too far. You guys went too far because this is a special baseball player. And not enough of you treat him like a special baseball player, in my personal opinion. Let's look at the Savant page because we can talk about those things he does great and talk about those things that he deserves criticism for. A lot of red. He was in the 87th percentile in batting run value. He was in the 90th percentile in base running value, and he was in the 92nd in fielding run value. That's pretty damn good. Apologies for the semi-swear. Shout out Pioneer Elementary. 80th percentile in expected weighted on base average at 348. 87th percentile in expected batting average at 274. 83rd percentile in expected slugging at 483. 87th percentile in average exit velocity at 91.8. Hard hit percentage of 48% was in the 48th, or excuse me, the 80th percentile. This guy's bat speed is just ridiculous. I was surprised that it only ranks in the 96th percentile because I can't picture someone swinging the bat harder than Julio Rodriguez. I just can't. I can't. He swings the bat as hard as I remember Gary Sheffield swinging it. Nobody had bat speed like Gary Sheffield, but Julio's up there, and I'm shocked that there are guys better. I'm tempted to look it up, but maybe we'll do that some other time. There is negative here. The approach has gone backwards. You know, he chases so much, 35.9% of the time. He swings and misses an awful lot at 28.2% of the time. The chase rate is in the bottom 10th percentile in baseball. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. The whiff rate of 28.2, 26th percentile, I can deal with it, but I also know that number is going to go up if he stops swinging at so many gosh damn pitches outside of the strike zone. Apologies for swear number 2. Strikeout percentage was only in the 50th percentile at 21.4. It's weird to say, but 150 strikeouts in 160 games, or was it 152, whatever it was? That's not a atrocious number. It's not good, but it's not the number it used to be, where if you struck out 150 times, what was wrong with you? It's so hard to hit now. It's so hard. The pitching is so good. But the walk rate of 6.2%, when you have that type of offensive skill set, that shouldn't happen. It just shouldn't. He's got to be more patient at the plate. He has to. Let's take a look at what he did against pitch types in 2025. Fastballs, mollywopped him. 279, 479 slugging percentage, weighted on base average of 351. Let's go down so I get the run values. There we go. Run value of 13 against those, and he saw them 27.3% of the time, which to me is crazy. I just don't know why you'd throw Julio a fastball. Well, I'll tell you why in just a sec, because there's one pitch that really gets Julio, and we'll talk about it at the very end of this. Sinkers, 368 with a 526 slugging percentage. Just don't bother. Just don't bother. And by the way, expected batting average of 327 with a 458 expected slugging percentage suggests that wasn't good luck. Actually had a little bit of bad luck against forcing fastballs. He hit 245 against them, but expected batting average of 277, expected slugging of 542 against that 490. Hard hit percentage of 70.7%. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Sliders. And I know a lot of you look at Julio and you picture him swinging at pitches outside the strike zone, in part because, hey, how'd it end, right? You might have a misconception there. 257 batting average, 358 weighted on base average, 495 slugging percentage, and a 43.4% hard hit rate. That's solid. Sweepers, 262, 477, weighted on base average of 330. By the way, it was 411 against sinkers and 358 against sliders. It's really good. Expected slugging percentage was 555 against them. Expected weighted on base average of 370 against sweepers. This idea that Julio can't hit sliders or just, flails at them. Now, he has a whiff rate of 36% and 32% against that slider and sweeper. You'd like to see that get down to 30 or 25-ish, something around that mark. Changeups, didn't face a heck of a lot of them. 246, 492 slugging percentage, a 327 weighted on base average. The cutter, it's a problem. It was a real problem, and he didn't face a ton of them. He only faced 9.8% of his plate appearances against them, or 9.8% of his plate appearances were against him. I worded that weirdly, but you know what I was saying, hopefully. He hit 115 against him. He swung and missed 27.9%, which isn't terrible, but boy, that's a lot of weak contact. Hard hit percentage was only 40.5. That's his third lowest behind the change and the sweeper, but that pitch gave him trouble. Anything that's kind of cutting away from him or bearing into his hands, he's got to do a better job handling. But outside of that pitch, Julio was really good. Run value is positive against everything but cutters, and that's all of 55 plate appearances. Okay? Real quick, thank you, Simply Seattle, the very best in Seattle sports gear. Use code MOLLYWOP15 to save 15% off your order. MOLLYWHOP15. Link in the description. Really appreciate you, Simply Seattle. Let's look at the splits because we love to look at splits. Against right-handers and against lefties, because those are the two that you can face. Nobody can throw with two hands. It's crazy. Pretty even. 795 OPS against righties, 806 against lefties. Against right-handed starters, an 815 OPS. Against left-handed starters, 755 OPS. Should probably end with the homer away. No, we can talk about it. Julio was much better away from Seattle. Much better. He hit 236, 306 with a not so nice 369 slugging percentage. Shout out Ying Yang Twins. 676 OPS, 9 homers. 290 batting average on balls in play suggests that it wasn't just like bad luck or anything of that, but safe T-Mobile, Safeco, Lumen, whatever the hell they call it. It's not been his park, and it may never be. It may never be his park. But we need better than 676. If we want Julio, and as Seattle Mariner fans, we should only want the best for this guy. If we want him to be in that upper echelon, he's got to have closer to a 750 OPS at home. And do what he does on the road. Because, golly, 296, 341, 571 in 80 games, 23 homers, 12 stolen bases, 18 for 19, by the way, at home. 313 batting average on balls in play, so it's not just a bunch of good luck. 296, 341, 571 is elite, especially when you think about this guy's wheels and his defense, which I promise you we're going to talk about. First half, got off to a mediocre start. 252, 313, 417. That's a 731 OPS. Second half, he was really good. It's almost exactly the line that he has away in the second half. 290, 341, 560 with 18 homers in those 65 games. He was just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. You take a look at by the month, April, March, there it is. 681 OPS over the first 30 games, 783 in May, 706 in June. It was kind of weird that Julio in June just wasn't very good, but then Julio in July, man, and then August and September as well. But July, 236 average, but a 5 slugging percentage. He clearly was just driving the baseball and more comfortable driving the baseball. 808 OPS in that month. And then in August, 321, 357, 587 with 7 homers. September, October, 272, 356, 543 with 6 homers. Slow starts. And maybe that's just what Julio is. I would just like to see the slow starts have a little bit faster. Like, you ever do bumper cars? You ever drive with someone who's going like 2 and you know that person is, or you've been in the lane, so to speak. That person's driving like 2 because they're being really careful. Well, that person gets its butts kicked, right? Like badly. I'd like to see Julio get that MPH up to 15 or 20. And I don't know how fast bumper cars are supposed to go, but you just got to make the slow starts tolerable, more tolerable, because it's about expectations. It's about expectations. We expect so much from Julio that a 731 OPS for the first 95 games isn't good enough. And he needed to get hot to get to that. That series against Detroit right before the break, I don't think you can overstate how important that was. He just shellacked the baseball. And yep, from that point on, Julio was really good. Really, really good. Let's talk about the postseason. Well, you know what? Let's talk about the defense. I want to end with the postseason. I changed my mind. He's phenomenal. I think he's the best center fielder in baseball. And there's some really, 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 really good ones. But I think Julio is the best. His range is just incredible. His speed and athleticism is obviously second to basically none. And then his instincts just get better and better and better and better. In particular, man, his arm is so much better than it was a couple of years ago. 92.6 mile per hour average throw. 65th in arm value. 65th percentile, in arm value. Does he miss the cutoff sometimes? Yeah. Sometimes he misses the cutoff because he's making an athletic play and he's trying to do a little too much. That's always going to happen with Julio, by the way. That's the way he plays the game. And there's so much more good that comes from him playing that game that you just deal with it. Yes, I want him to swing at pitches outside of the strike zone far less often. Yes, I want to see, I don't even know what the right word would be, but I just want the starts to get better. It's not like he's not working hard, by the way. You see him in spring training. It's not a case of Julio not working hard. I just think it takes him some time to get the timing right. And that's true for a lot of players. A lot of players. It's just a little more extreme with Julio. Number one, because we're watching him every day. And number two, because, again, those expectations, man. He's a phenomenal player. Phenomenal defensive player, obviously. And I'll take him in center field over pretty much there's kind of a big three. He's not as good as Griffey. He's not quite as good as Cameron. And he's not quite as good as Goody. But that's such an amazing compliment to those three. Such an amazing compliment to those three that he's the fourth best center fielder defensively that the Mariners have had. And again, he's 25. Let's end with the postseason because, I mentioned it earlier. It sucks so much that he is the last out of Game 7. He swings at a pitch outside of the strike zone. It wasn't a good pitch. He's trying to do too much, blah, blah, blah. I think it's a mistake to focus on that. And I read a bunch of comments both on Locked On and on my video at the end of the year that, again, this is why I have to become a Julio apologist, because it's insane to blame him for them losing that baseball game. There's so many other guys who get the blame before Julio does, in part because it's crazy that people forget he hits the double to lead off the game, scores the run, and then hits the home run to give them the lead at 2-1. And the overall numbers in the postseason this year, I mean, he hit 174, 240, 348 in the Detroit series with one homer. And he hit 240, 367, 640. That's a 1.007 OPS. That's really good. The batting average isn't ideal. Do not forget how many huge hits Julio Rodriguez had in that series. Please do not forget how many huge hits he had. The home run off of Yesevich to give you the 3-0 lead in, I believe, game 2. The line drive double off of, Kyle Finnegan, yeah, to tie that baseball game. The home run that he hits in game 7, it was massive. It sucks that it didn't end up mattering as much. But there's this idea that Julio Rodriguez can't get it done in the clutch situations, and I think it's stupid. I think it's just dumb. And everyone's entitled to, well, I hate the term entitled to your opinion, but you have the right to think. You're not going to get thrown in jail yet for thinking differently than other people. I think I have a lot of evidence on my side that suggests that Julio Rodriguez can get it done. And you might point to some stats that suggest otherwise, and that's fine. It's the eye test for me. The eye test. That double to tie the game in game 2. That's as big as it gets. Otherwise, you're falling down 0-2. And I did mention that I kind of would have preferred the Mariners lose to the Tigers, so I would have less heartbreak, but that's mostly in jest. But man, Julio Rodriguez is a special 22 minutes, Chris. This is ridiculous. Julio Rodriguez was great in 2025, and there are things he can improve to become as good as any player in baseball not named Shohei Ohtani in 2026, 2027, 2028. And I don't want anyone to forget, yeah, he's a little older than most 25-year-olds because of the experience, but it's still a 25-year-old. It's still the age where you see legitimate top 100 prospects at that age. And he will play all year as a 25-year-old next year. And I won't be surprised if he gets off to a slow start, because I've seen it. I've seen it 3 years in a row. 4 years in a row, excuse me. But it's worth it. These slow starts are worth it because, and I've said this a bunch of times on this channel, the hot Julio, the August 2023 Julio, the second half Julio, more than makes up for the struggles, because adding runs like that and taking away runs with your defense all the while, and the thing I have to always credit Julio, no matter how poorly the offense has gone, the defense has just been there. It's just, he has never taken it into the field. Every mistake that has been made has been trying to do too much. Some base running gaffes, right? Some, again, swinging at pitches outside of the strike zone. It's trying to do too much. But it has never carried over into the field. And I think that's really impressive for a 25-year-old, 24-year-old last year. So yeah, Julio Rodriguez, really, really good. And yet somehow not the best Seattle Mariner in 2025. Bonkers. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you, Julio. And I'm just asking, join the bandwagon, man. Join the fun. I don't understand the hate. And it bugs me. It always will. And you know what? I'm going to say it always will. But I'm going to retract that and say I think Julio Rodriguez is going to do enough in 2026 to shut up a lot of people. Shouldn't have to. But yeah, I love you, Julio. The end of this video was terrible.